In this documentary, we are going to see how the Nazi Germany under Hitler's regime was indeed controlled by the Roman Catholic Church in the Vatican. But before we go into the Nazi regime, we first must know who was the Black Pope, or the Superior General of the Jesuits at this time, Vladimir Ledachowski. Pope Pius XI, in the late 30s, made a monumental move, the first writing of an encyclical, which at least in part denounced racial anti-Semitism. It is referred to as the Hidden Encyclical. Pius requested American Jesuit messenger Lafarge to draft a statement which upheld traditional Catholic doctrine against Jewish doctrine, but decried racism against the Jews and countered at least partly in the 1933 Vatican Concordat with Nazi Germany. Ledachowski was the austere politician and Jesuit general at the time, and he was not in favor of the new document. It mysteriously disappeared, and Pius died before the signing, although it was one of the last documents on his desk. The document, Humani Generis Unitas, or the unity of the human race, might have made a difference in the Vatican's allowance of the Third Reich's policies. But Pius XI died. Pius XII, more a politician and diplomat than theologian, and with ties to Germany, and von Papen took office rapidly. Ledachowski is credited with being instrumental in the suppression of the document. Hitler's Catholic parents. Clara Hitler, born Clara Paulzel, August 12, 1860, to December 21, 1907, was the mother of Adolf Hitler by her husband Owa. She was a devout Roman Catholic and went to church regularly. Owa Hitler, born Alois Schicklgruber, June 7, 1837, to January 3, 1903, was the father of Adolf Hitler, baptized Roman Catholic at infancy, remained Roman Catholic his whole life. This is the Catholic Church where Adolf Hitler's parents were buried. July 1897, Hitler enrolled in the monastery's choir and school. Adolf continues to do well, achieving the Austrian equivalent of straight A's. He will later recall, "Since in my free time I received singing lessons in the cloister at Lambach, I had excellent opportunity to intoxicate myself with the solemn splendor of the brilliant church festivals. It seemed to me perfectly natural to regard the abbot as the highest and most desirable ideal, just as my father regarded the village priest as his ideal." May 22, 1904, 15-year-old Adolf Hitler is confirmed, Roman Catholic at Linz Cathedral, sponsored by one of Owa's pallbearers and former Customs House colleague. Adolf Hitler, son of the Catholic Church, died while defending Christianity. It is therefore understandable that words cannot be found to lament over his death, when so many were found to exalt his life. Over his mortal remains stands his victorious moral figure, with the palm of the martyr. God gives Hitler the laurels of victory. Spanish dictator Francisco Franco, Knight of the Order of Christ, published on the 3rd of May 1945, the day of Hitler's death. Munich, 1933. Hermann Esser, Adolf Hitler, politicians, and Estab welcomed the Apostolic Nuncio in Bayern, Alberto Vasallo di Torgrossa, to the right, Bavarian economy minister and chief of the minister's office, and the former Tsar Ferdinand of Bulgaria. Hitler greets Reich Bishop Ludwig Müller and Abbot Almeda Schatzlater as honorary guests at the Reich Party Rally for Unity and Strength, September 4th to the 10th, 1934. He, Schatzlater, was one of the few Catholic clergymen who maintained contacts with the National Socialist movement, even before Hitler's rise to power in 1933. Adolf meeting with Cesare Orsenigo, the papal nuncio, the personal representative of the Pope to Nazi Germany, one of many such meetings. The Führer had come to power. thanks to the votes of the Catholic Centrum only 5 years before. But most of the objectives cynically revealed in Mein Kampf were already realized. This book, an insolent challenge to the Western democracies, was written by the Jesuit Father Stiefel and signed by Hitler, for as so many ignore the fact it was the Society of Jesus which perfected the famous Pan-German program, as laid out in this book, and the Fuhrer endorsed it. The Secret History of the Jesuits, page 138. After writing Mein Kampf for Adolf Hitler, Bernhard Stempfel was thrown into a concentration camp and then assassinated in June 1934, having been deported to the Dachau concentration camp. His body was found in the woods near Harleching. His death is attributed by some accounts to a broken neck and by others to shots in the heart while trying to escape. There is disagreement also over the reasons for his murder. In some accounts, it is considered possible that he was regarded as having too much information about Hitler's past and personal life, and especially about the death of Hitler's niece, Jelly Rommel. Other accounts hold that it was perhaps his attacks on Christian Weber for immorality and running a brothel that determined his fate. Potsdamer train station, Berlin, 1930. On the left, Robert Leiber, S.J., Jesuit priest, close advisor to Pope Pius XII, professor for church history at the Gregorian University in Rome, from 1930 to 1960. In the middle, Monsignor Cesare Orsenigo, Papal Nuncio to Germany. A nuncio is appointed by and represents the Holy See, the Pope. To the right, Christian Schreiber, Bishop of Berlin, member of the Centre Party, titles, Magistrality, the Sovereign Order of Malta, throne assistant of His Holiness, the Pope, and in the background we have Dr. Eugene von Klee. The Führer had come to power, thanks to the votes of the Catholic Centrum, Centre Party overseen by Jesuit Robert Leiber S.J. and Roman Catholic priest Ludwig Kost, only 5 years before, 1933. But most of the objectives cynically revealed in Mein Kampf were already realized. This book was written by the Jesuit-controlled Father Bernhard Stiefel and signed by Hitler. 4. It was the Society of Jesus which perfected the famous Pan-German program as laid out in this book, and the Fuhrer endorsed it. Edmond Paris, 1965. French historian, The Secret History of the Jesuits. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor. On 23rd of March 1933, his government was given legislative powers through the Enabling Act and was passed by all Reichstag except the Social Democrats and Communists, whose deputies had already been arrested. Hitler had obtained the votes of the Centre Party, led by Prelate Ludwig Kost, by issuing oral guarantees of the party's continued existence and the autonomy of the Church and her educational institutions. He also promised good relations with the Holy See, which some interpret as a hint on a future concordat. In other words, a Catholic priest was largely responsible for putting Hitler in power. Prelate Ludwig Kost, 23rd of May 1881 to 15th of April 1952, was a Roman Catholic priest and a prominent German politician during the Weimar Republic. Born in Trier, Kost was ordained a priest in 1906 and studied history and canon law in Trier and Rome 1906. He completed a doctorate in theology, and in 1909 he obtained a second doctorate in philosophy. In 1910 he was appointed rector of an orphanage and boarding school near Koblenz. Until 1933 he devoted his spare time to scholarly pursuits. Later, Kost would frequently travel to Rome, where he would stay with Pacelli and then experience firsthand the New Lateran Treaty, which he published on in 1931 and 1932, continued as an advisor in negotiations for a reichskonkordat that however came to nothing until 1933. 1933, the 15th of March, Cause was the main advocate supporting the Hitler administration's Enabling Act in return for certain constitutional and allegedly ecclesiastic guarantees. Hitler responded positively via Papen. 23rd of March, Cause gave a speech outside Reichstag, voicing the centrist support for the bill amid concerns put aside. This vote for the Enabling Act was a major step in the institution of the dictatorship of Adolf Hitler, and is remembered as the prime example of a democracy voting for its own demise, just like the Patriot Act, because of Cause's request for guarantees, and because of his later involvement in the reichskonkordat negotiations. Cause and Papen traveled together to Rome and had discussions on the train. Von Papen had assured Cause that a concordat with the new government was a sure thing. Cause has worked on a reichskonkordat for over 10 years. Now Hitler offered it. Then liberal Social Democrats fiercely opposed the Enabling Act. Hitler needed a two-third majority, so the balance lay with Zentrum, the Catholic Center Party. Zentrum leader Monsignor Ludwig Cause, a close friend and advisor to Eugenio Pacelli, the future Pope Pius XII, addressed the Reichstag, far from attacking the Enabling Act or disputing Hitler's claim that Nazism was based on Christianity. Cause called for a yes vote. The Zentrum faction did vote yes, and the act became law. According to National Catholic Reporter correspondent John Allen, a liberal Catholic and student of Vatican history, he has written a biography of Joseph Ratzinger. Cause acted in coordination with the German bishops. 4 days later, on March the 28th, the German bishops rescinded their ban on Nazi Party membership. On April 1st, Cardinal Adolf Bertram of Breslau addressed German Catholics in a letter, warning them to reject as a matter of principle all illegal or subversive activities. To most Catholics, it looked as if the Church wanted a modus vivendi with Hitler. The same impression was created a few weeks later, when Hitler held a plebiscite to endorse his decision to pull Germany out of the League of Nations, which received the endorsement of the Catholic press and of several Catholic bishops. When Hitler and the Church came to terms for a concordat, it cemented the impression that Hitler was a man the Church could do business with. Signing the concordat is Cardinal Pacelli, later to become Pope Pius XII. By 1933, he was the Vatican Secretary of State. Far-leftist prelate Ludwig Cause, leader of the Zentrum Party. Seated second from his left is Franz von Papen, who was a German nobleman, Catholic politician, general staff officer, and diplomat who served as Chancellor of Germany, Reichskanzler in 1932. Next to him is Giuseppe Parzardo. In the middle is Cardinal Pacelli, who later became Pope Pius XII. On his left is Cardinal Alfredo Ottaviani. Next to him is Rudolf Botman. Standing next to him is a little-known Vatican prelate, Mattini, later to become Pope Paul VI. And finally next to Mattini is Dr. Eugene von Klee, who was the first Catholic German embassy counselor to Vatican City. Information about him is more sparse than anyone else in the image. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor. On the 23rd of March 1933, his government was given legislative powers through the Enabling Act and was passed by all Reichstag, except the Social Democrats and Communists, whose deputies had already been arrested. Hitler had attained the votes of the Center Party, led by Prelate Ludwig Cause, by issuing oral guarantees of party's continued existence and the autonomy of the Church and her educational institutions. He also promised good relations with the Holy See, which some interpret as a hint at a future concordat. In April, he sent his vice-chancellor Franz von Papen, a Catholic nobleman and former member of the Center Party, to Rome to offer negotiations about a reichskonkordat. On behalf of Cardinal Pacelli, Ludwig Cause, the outgoing chairman of the Center Party, negotiated the draft of the terms with Papen. The concordat was finally signed by Pacelli for the Vatican and von Papen for Germany on the 20th of July. One of Hitler's key conditions for agreeing to the concordat, in violation to earlier promises, had been the dissolution of the Center Party, which occurred on July the 6th. The Reichskonkordat was ratified on September the 10th, 1933. In the Concordat, the German government achieved a complete proscription of all clerical interference in the political field. It also ensured the bishop's loyalty to the state by an oath and required all priests to be Germans and subject to German superiors. Restrictions were also placed on the Catholic organizations. Shortly before signing the Reichskonkordat, Germany signed similar agreements with the major Protestant churches in Germany. Franz von Papen? Another well-informed person, the mainspring of the pact between the Holy See and Berlin and the Pope's secret chamberlain, Franz von Papen, was even more explicit. The Third Reich is the first world power which not only acknowledges but also puts into practice the high principles of the papacy. Robert D. Harcourt of the French Academy, Franz von Papen, Alhamatout Farolom, 3rd October 1946. To this, we will add the result of this putting into practice: 25 million victims of the concentration camps, the official figure issued by the United Nations Organization. Secret History of the Jesuits, page 164. Front, from left to right, Franz von Papen, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels. The Jesuits orchestrated both the major Axis powers and minor Axis powers. Germany, Italy, and Japan were the major. The rest were minor. Germany, Adolf Hitler. Italy, Benito Mussolini. Japan, Emperor Hirohito. France, Henry Philippe. Spain, Francisco Franco. Austria, Cinquart and Cardinal Initzer. Poland, Frank. Slovakia, Tiso, a Roman Catholic priest. Croatia, Anti-Pavlik. Belgium, de Grelle. And in Palestine, Grand Mufti Husseini. Pope Benedict XVI. Former Pope. When he was in Hitler Youth, his father, Joseph Ratzinger, Sr., was an Ordnungspolizei. The Ordnungspolizei, ORPO, was the name for the uniformed regular German police force that existed in Nazi Germany between the years of 1936 and 1945. After their green uniforms, they were also referred to as Grün Polizei, Green Police. Joseph Ratzinger, Sr., served in the Bavarian Landespolizei for several years as a rural policeman. Various sources state that the Ratzingers' views towards the National Socialist German Workers' Party caused the family some hardship, including the family having to move several times in the 1930s. There is no evidence, however, that Joseph Ratzinger, Sr., was ever arrested for anti-Nazi tendencies. He continued to serve in the police, even after such events as the Night of the Long Knives and the passing of the Nuremberg Laws. These are the items: the Ordnungspolizei, Police Force War. In 1936, Joseph Ratzinger, Sr., became a member of the Ordnungspolizei. After all, the police forces of Nazi Germany were incorporated into a national police force. In summer 1942, George Ratzinger was drafted to the Reichsarbeitsdienst, and the same autumn to the German Wehrmacht. In 1944, he was wounded in battle in Italy at the end of World War II. He was a POW of the U.S. Army in the vicinity of Naples, but was released and arrived at home in July of 1945. Here are some pictures of Dominican monks serving meals to Nazis. You can see how this could play a role in the conscience of the Nazi. The religion he grew up in was supporting their fascism. Who is more evil? The Roman Catholic Church, of course, although the Nazis are not by any means innocent. The Inquisition was suggested by Dominic de Guzman and was begun in 1204. It was hell's masterpiece of cunning, perfidy, cruelty, and all-around wickedness. It was conducted with the rankest injustice. The victim was dragged into court without witnesses, and without any information as to what was the charge against him. He was not allowed an attorney or the presence of friends, but under the cruelest torture it was demanded that he recant his heresies, oftentimes not knowing what the item in the charge of which he was to recant. Page 137 of Uncle Sam, or The Pope, which by Revel Pickett. Left photo, Catholic Nazi funeral with altar boys. Middle photo, Hitler signing autograph for none. And right photo, Hitler making a Hail Rome. Hitler, Goebbels, and Himmler, and most members of the party's old guard were Catholics. Wrote M. Frederick Hoffet, it was not by accident that, because of its chief religion, the National Socialist government was the most Catholic Germany ever had. This kinship between National Socialism and Catholicism is most striking if we study closely the propaganda methods and the interior organization of the party. Its object, nothing is more instructive than Joseph Goebbels' works. He had been brought up in a Jesuit college, and was a seminarist before devoting himself to literature and politics. Every page, every line of his writings recall the teaching of his masters, so he stresses obedience, the contempt for truth. Some lies are as useful as bread. He proclaimed by virtue of a moral relativism extracted from Ignatius of Loyola's writings. Frederick Hoffet, El Imperialisme Protestant, Flammarion, Paris 1948, page 172 SS. Joseph Goebbels, 1897 to 1945, Nazi member of the Reichstag, 1928 to 1933, Reich Minister of Enlightenment and Propaganda, 1933 to 1945, Reich Commissioner for Total Mobilization, 1944 to 1945. According to the story, on May the 1st, 1945, he poisoned his 6 children, then shot his wife and killed himself to escape the advancing Allied armies. I highly doubt that is true. On the 29th of October 1897, Joseph Goebbels was born into a strict Catholic, working-class family from Reit, in the Rhineland. He was educated at a Roman Catholic school and went on to study history and literature at the University of Heidelberg. Goebbels was exempted from military service during World War I because of a crippled foot, the result of contracting polio as a child. Joseph Goebbels, seated with his wife Magda, whose Jewish father died at the Buchenwald slave labor camp, and the 6 children whom they killed before killing themselves, according to the official story. The eldest son in uniform, by Magda's previous marriage, was in the Luftwaffe and survived the war. Goebbels was so close to fellow Catholic Hitler that he had him serve as first witness at his Catholic marriage. In this well-known manipulated image, the visage of the uniformed herald, who was away on military duties when the photo was taken, was inserted and retouched. On the left, Archbishop Cesare Orsenigo, Papal Nuncio to Germany, with Goebbels and William E. Dodd, the American ambassador to Germany, are on the right. Sigrid Schultz, William Dodd, and Joseph Goebbels, together with Interior Minister Wilhelm Frick, second from the right, and Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels, far right. Catholic bishops Franz Rudolf Bordewasser, Bishop of Trier, and Ludwig Sebastian, Bishop of Speyer, raised their hands in the Nazi salute at an official ceremony in Saarbrücken City Hall, marking the reincorporation of the Saarland into the German Reich. Reception at the German Embassy to the Holy See. Joseph Goebbels in conversation with, to the right, the German ambassador to the Holy See, Diego von Bergen, and Cardinal Steinmann, May the 31st, 1933. Cardinal, or Monsignor Steinmann, was ecclesiastical counselor to the German Embassy on behalf of the Holy See. Reception at the German Embassy to the Holy See. Joseph Goebbels in conversation with Cardinal Steinmann. At the table, from the left, Magda Goebbels, Consul Stiller in Florence, Mrs. von Bergen, wife of German Ambassador to the Holy See. In the background left, Ambassador Diego von Bergen. Second right, newspaper correspondent Count Reischach. In the background behind Goebbels, Counselor Dr. Eugene von Klee. Heinrich Himmler and the SS. Heinrich Himmler, center with glasses, the son of a pious, authoritarian Roman Catholic schoolmaster who had once been tutor to the Bavarian crown prince. His mother, Anna Maria Himmler, maiden name Hader, was also a devout Catholic. The SS organization had been constituted by Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit Order, their regulations and the spiritual exercises prescribed by Ignatius of Loyola, where the model Himmler tried to copy exactly. The rights for SS Himmler's title as Supreme Chief of the SS was to be the equivalent of the Jesuits General, and the whole structure of the direction was a close imitation of the Catholic Church's hierarchical order. A medieval castle near Paderborn in Westphalia and called Webelsburg was restored. It became what could be called a SS monastery. Kurt Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer of the SS, Gestapo, and German police forces, seemed to be the one most impregnated by clericalism amongst the Catholic members of Hitler's entourage. His father had been director of a Catholic school in Munich, then tutor of Prince Ruprecht of Bavaria. His brother, a Benedictine monk, lived at the monastery of Maria Loch, one of the pan-German high places. He also had an uncle, Jesuit Himmler, who had held the important position of canon at the court of Bavaria. The German author Walter Haging gives also this discreet information. The Jesuits general, Count Hauck von Ladachowski, was ready to organize, on the common basis of anti-communism, some collaboration between the German Secret Service and the Jesuit Order. As a result, within the SS Central Security Service, an organization was created, and most of its main posts were held by Catholic priests wearing the black uniform of the SS. The Jesuit Father Himmler was one of its superior officers. After the Third Reich's capitulation, the Jesuit Father Himmler was arrested and imprisoned at Nuremberg. His hearing by the International Tribunal would have apparently been most interesting, but Providence was keeping a watchful eye. Heinrich Himmler's uncle never appeared before that court. One morning, he was found dead in his cell, and the public never learned the cause of his death. Totenkopf, Death's Head. Use of the symbol as a military insignia began with the cavalry of the Prussian army under Frederick the Great. Frederick formed Hussar Regiment No. 5, von Rauch, a Hussar regiment commanded by Colonel von Rauch. These Hussars adopted a black uniform with a Totenkopf emblazoned on the front of their Merletons and wore it on the field in the War of Austrian Succession and in the 7 Years' War. Frederick II, January 24th, 1712 to August 17th, 1786, was a king of Prussia from the Hohenzollern dynasty. In his role as a prince-elector of the Holy Roman Empire, he was Frederick IV of Brandenburg. He became known as Frederick the Great and was nicknamed Old Fritz. What is the prince-elector? Princeps-elector were the members of the Electoral College of the Holy Roman Empire, and the function of electing the Holy Roman Emperors. Papal Nuncios to Germany. A papal nuncio, officially known as an apostolic nuncio, is a permanent diplomatic representative, head of diplomatic mission of the Holy See to a state or international organization, having the rank of an ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary, usually with the ecclesiastical rank of titular archbishop. Under the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, a papal nuncio is an ambassador like those from any other country. However, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations allows the receiving state to grant seniority of precedence to the papal nuncio over others of ambassadorial rank accredited to the same country, and may grant the deanship of that country's diplomatic corps to the nuncio regardless of seniority. As nuncio during the 1920s, he had made unsuccessful attempts to obtain German agreement for such a treaty, and between 1930 and 1933, he attempted to initiate negotiations with representatives of successive German governments, but the opposition of Protestant and socialist parties, the instability of national governments, and the care of the individual states to guard their autonomy for this aim. In particular, the questions of denominational schools and pastoral work in the armed forces prevented any agreement on the national level, despite talks in the winter of 1932. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor on the 30th of January 1933, and sought to gain international respectability and to remove internal opposition by representatives of the Church and a Catholic Center Party. He sent his vice-chancellor Franz von Papen, a Catholic nobleman and former member of the Center Party, to Rome to offer negotiations about a reichskonkordat on behalf of Cardinal Pacelli, Prelate Ludwig Kaas. The outgoing chairman of the Center Party negotiated first drafts of the terms with Papen. The concordat was finally signed by Pacelli for the Vatican and von Papen for Germany on 20th of July and ratified on September 10th, 1933. Cesare, Orsenigo, Apostolic Nuncio in Berlin 1935, arranged April the 4th, 1939, birthday celebration for Hitler with Vatican's warmest regards, died the 4th of January 1946. Most agree that Orsenigo favored fascism, particularly Nazism, and that he collaborated and supported the German war effort, seen as weak by Hitler. And as a Pius XI, loyalist by Pacelli, he failed to obtain a cardinalate in February 1946 and died in April during a return to Germany. Pacelli and Hitler. The Catholic Church hierarchy, especially Eugenio Pacelli, before and after he became Pope Pius XII, aided the Nazis. Indeed, Pacelli and the Church played a central role in making Hitler the dictator of Germany. Hitler was a Catholic and put into power by the Vatican, so that he would sign a concordat with them. Prior, the German government refused the concordat more than twice, and look what the Vatican did to them for that. Look at how they were punished. They were manipulated and brought so much pain upon. Everything regarding Nazism came from Rome initially. Like the Nazi salute is really the Roman salute. Hitler said his Nazi order was fashioned after the Jesuit Order, and had transferred much of the Jesuit Order into his own party. This is important. Please read about the concordat between Nazi Germany and the Vatican. Fascist Franco of Spain generals coming up to kiss the Pope's ring, expressing 100% submission in the Vatican in 1939. Pope Pius XII, born Eugenio Maria Giuseppe Giovanni Pacelli, a.k.a. Hitler's Pope. The Roman salute. To the left, Mussolini giving the Roman salute. In the middle, Spain giving Roman salute to Francisco Franco, the fascist dictator of Spain, religious Roman Catholic and personal friend of Adolf Hitler, 1930s. To the right, Hitler hailing in front of a Catholic church. This photo speaks for itself. Catholic symbols mixed with Nazism. To the left, Catholic symbolism mixed in with Nazism. The sun coming up behind is very popular pagan symbolism. To the right, Nazi coin with Catholic Church on it. Cardinal Bertram, Archbishop of Rockall from 1914 to his death. In 1916, appointed Cardinal. In 1945, at 86, he was president of the German Episcopal Conference and spokesperson for the bishops of Germany, holding ties with Hitler. He said, "Warmest congratulations to the Führer in the name of the bishops and the dioceses in Germany." Fervent prayers which the Catholics in Germany are sending to heaven on their altars. Hitler's Pope, the secret life of Pius XII. He added concern to the pact with the right over their mistreatment of non-Aryan Catholics, authoring the distinction between the Church and Nazism, in which the Church maintained Judaism as religion, the Nazis as race. Jozef Tiso. Jozef Tiso was a Roman Catholic priest who became a deputy of the Czechoslovak Parliament, a member of the Czechoslovak government, and finally the leader of the independent Slovak Republic from 1939 to 1945, which was a puppet state of Nazi Germany. After the end of World War II, Tiso was hanged by Czechoslovak authorities. Klaus Barbie, October 25, 1913 to September 25, 1991, was an SS Hochsturmführer, soldier and Gestapo member. He was known as the Butcher of Lyon. Klaus Barbie was born in Bad Godesberg, near Bonn, Germany. Barbie was born to a Roman Catholic family. He is best known primarily for one of his cases, the arrest and torture of Jean Moulin, one of the highest-ranking members of the French resistance. In April 1944, Barbie ordered the deportation to Auschwitz of a group of 44 Jewish children from an orphanage at Iziu. In 1947, Barbie became an agent for the 66th Detachment of the U.S. Army Counterintelligence Corps, CIC. In 1951, he fled to Perons, Argentina with the help of a red line organized by the Stasi Roman Catholic priest Kronislav Draganovic. Asked by Barbie why he was going out of his way to help him escape, Draganovic responded, "We have to maintain a sort of moral reserve on which we can draw in the future." He then emigrated to Bolivia, where he lived under the alias Klaus Altman, testimony of Italian insurgent Stefano del Chiaie, before the Italian Parliamentary Commission on Terrorism, suggests that Barbie took part in the cocaine coup of Luis Garcia Tejada, when the regime forced its way to power in Bolivia in 1980. While in Bolivia, Barbie managed a company that diverted Belgian and Swiss arms to Israel while Israel was still under a post-1967 war international arms embargo. A report in the Israeli press alleges that Barbie also had frequent dealings with Israel concerning supplies of Israeli arms to Latin American countries and various underground organizations. Gustav Schwarzenegger. According to documents obtained in 2003 from the Austrian State Archives by the Los Angeles Times, which was after the expiration of a 30-year seal of his records under Austrian privacy law, Gustav Schwarzenegger voluntarily applied to join the Nazi Party on 1st of March 1938, 2 weeks before the country was annexed. Austria became part of the German Reich through the Anschluss on 12 March 1938. A separate record obtained by the Wiesenthal Center indicates he sought membership before the annexation, but was only accepted in January 1941. He also applied to become a member of the Sturmabteilung SA, the NSD Peace paramilitary wing, on the 1st of May 1939. Arnold Schwarzenegger is embraced and kissed by a priest outside a Catholic church in Santa Monica, Los Angeles. Amazing that the son of a Nazi became a huge American idol and even became governor of one of America's largest states. All roads lead to Rome and the Jesuit Order. I have learned most of all from the Jesuit Order. So far, there has been nothing more imposing on earth than the hierarchical organization of the Catholic Church. A good part of that organization I have transported direct to my own party. The Catholic Church must be held up as an example. I will tell you a secret. I'm founding an order. In Himmler, who would become head of the Nazi Party, I see our Ignatius de Loyola, Jesuit founder, Adolf Hitler. The public is practically unaware of the overwhelming responsibility carried by the Vatican and its Jesuits in the starting of the two world wars, a situation which may be explained in part by the gigantic finances at the disposition of the Vatican and its Jesuits, giving them power in so many spheres, especially since the last conflict. Edmund Paris, author of the book, The Secret History of the Jesuits. The SS had been organized by Heinrich Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit Order, the rules of service and spiritual exercises prescribed by Ignatius de Loyola, and, note, the founder of the Jesuit Order constituted a model which Heinrich Himmler strove carefully to copy. Absolute obedience was the supreme rule. Every order had to be executed without comment. Walter Schellenberg, chief of the Nazi Sicherheitsdienst, SD. The German author Walter Hagen gives also this discreet information. The Jesuits' superior general, Count Hauck von Ledichowski, was ready to organize, on the common basis of anti-communism, some collaboration between the German Secret Service and the Jesuit Order. As a result, within the SS Central Security Service, an organization was created, and most its main posts were held by Catholic priests wearing the black uniform of the Nazi SS. The Jesuits are a naked sword, whose hilt is at Rome, but its blade is everywhere, invisible until its stroke is felt. André-Marie Jean-Jacques Dupin, 1783 to 1865, French statesman.